चाय वाला कप एक छोटी मोटी कप कोई बात प्यारी प्यारी जाए दिल में तो छाप आजा करेगा पुशअप कोई बात ले चला कुछ मुझे सीख कुछ मुझको सिखा विड़यावड़ मेरे विड़यावड़ मेरे विड़यावड़ मेरे विड़यावड़ मेरे विड़यावड़ मेरे जाए दिल में तो छाप आजा करेगा पुशअप कोई बात ले चला.
Conversations with Jayashree Raina are always delightful. Her command on language, her wonderful wacky humor, her interest in all kinds of things about this world and even beyond this world. She reads a lot and follows so many amazing people online. Talking to her is like taking an invigorating swim in the cool, refreshing waters of her deep and wide bank of knowledge. I have learned a lot from her. She is so much fun. I am sure the hordes of students who have experienced her as a teacher also would wholeheartedly agree with me. I think you will love this conversation. Have a listen. If you're new, please subscribe. It would really help us. And press like if you have liked it. Hello. Welcome, guys, to the podcast Theatre of Joy. Today we have one of my favorite persons on the planet, Jayashree Raina. Jayashree is a teacher par excellence. And at this very moment, there are a lot of young people, littler people, and older people who go around the world with a little bit of Jayashree in them, because she has taught them some time or the other in their lives, and they all remember her. She is a teacher I would have loved to have. And today we will hear her experiences about the schools she's worked in, the children that she's tutored, and just knowing her gives me hope that there can be teachers like this. And that's why we are here today, to talk to her about her wonderful experiences in the world of teaching. Teaching really is a very noble profession if we make it. Jayashree?
Yes, it's very kind of you to say all those wonderful things.
No, I feel so honored that you are here today and talking to me, and I'm looking forward to this conversation really very, very much. So, where would you like to start? Would you like to start with your first teaching job?
So I think what really opened up my perspective to how I view the world was when I went abroad soon after my education, soon after my MA, and it was in England where where I went to stay for a while, supposedly with my brother. And there I landed up in a situation where a lot of help was required by the immigrant community.
This was in the year?
In the late 70s, 77.
Wow.
1977.
Yes.
So this was a time when these immigrants had recently, the new immigrants, the families had arrived in UK, and they knew very little English. So there was a real requirement for somebody to teach English, and I got straight away into it, and along with doing lots of other related jobs, and since I was on a I was on a visa which allowed me to work only part-time. So I flitted from one a voluntary organization to another and taking classes. And it was really the approach to teaching. For instance, when I was first interviewed to be qualified to teach in these places, um, I was preparing for an interview that kind of happens in India. And they'll ask me, what have you done, which college, what kind of teaching, this, that, Montessori method or what. And but I was just so pleasantly surprised that there was this very informal meeting, just like we are talking today. And this lady just, I still remember her name, Bridget Bird, from the education department, just asked me normal things. So when have you arrived? So whatever do you, how do you find your first, what are your first impressions of here? And what would you like to do? What are you looking forward to? And I just had a little, like, 20-minute conversation with her. And she said it's okay. And so all she wanted to know really was whether I knew English or not,
Yeah.
and whether I could communicate, and whether I could, so that was it. That was my
And she
interview.
did it in a way that even made you comfortable.
Yes,
Very
absolutely.
humane way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then after that, it wasn't like it wasn't a structured thing. So I had I chose where I would teach, and at that time there were several voluntary organizations, some run by gurdwaras, because they were doing they wanted the Asian population to learn English. There was a need for that. And there was other voluntary or other community work organizations who were providing the space, including local authority, which was providing space to teach English as a second language. So I found work in all these places, but the thing was that I had to start my class myself. So it was like I have to get together people from the
Okay.
community.
And they didn't come
I had to
every
visit
time.
house to house and say, look, now this facility is available. Would anybody like to? And it was a roaring success. Roaring success. So several people, women came out. They felt comfortable to come out, and we started the whole thing. And eventually, as it was a very informal setup, and as per their requirements, we started. And there were some ladies who came, some old ladies in the Gurdwara who were stuck with ladybird books, and they were like, they had already memorized the first page of them. And yeah, there was just some amusing things, and they didn't want to move beyond that because they thought that was the English they should know. And but we did a lot of situational English, what they would require in shops when they went out. And it was as the need arose and as the situation demanded. And it was great. So we had all I had to do after a session was fill out a card saying, this is where the place that I taught, and this is how many hours I taught. Usually it was like a couple of hours, and so many people attended. And that's it. And I would post it to the education department, and they would send me a check later on in the month.
In India, we can't, it's a little difficult to imagine, all the things that block us out here. It's just being human and being, kind. And not only as a person to person, but that the system is organized in a way that it is kind, right? And we find it difficult here to even imagine such situations. I mean, just imagine the UK government is actually creating all this facility
Yes.
for immigrants.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
though many of them did believe that these people come and take our jobs and whatever,
Yeah.
but still the system
Yeah.
is kind.
Yes.
Yes. Oh wow.
But what the system required at that time was, for instance, I did a stint as a preschool worker, in one of the schools, and almost like 90% of the children were Asian, and little ones. It was a preschool, and but all their staff was English, was British, and I was sent there as on a project, a Van Leer project, which was a Dutch sponsored project by the UN, and just for about 8 months or so to make this connection with the parents and the families and the staff, because they didn't have any. So that was the need of the hour, to make that connection.
And you fit the role so well.
Yeah, and
You
it
spoke
was
English.
It was very rewarding both ways for the institution. And we did little things like, made them proud of their heritage, of their clothing. So I remember we once put up an exhibition on the walls. So I asked all the ladies, you bring your wedding sari, you bring your little glittery thing, and stuff, particular hats, headdresses, masks of gods, things like that, and we just put it all along the walls of the nursery. And it was a huge success. In fact, it was so wonderful that the principal of the school, the bigger school, had brought all the kids from the other classes, senior classes, also to see it. Yeah. And another thing we did was, which was interesting, was we had a meeting, a staff meeting, because these teachers would say to me that we call them for parent-teacher meeting, but these ladies don't come. And I said, well, they don't understand what you're saying. How will they be comfortable? So they said, okay. So we organized, I spoke to the women, and they said, first of all, we started a meeting of our own, where they bought their samosas and pakoras and all, and had a little meeting once in a while. And at those meetings, we would invite one teacher from the school and make her sit with us. So afterwards, when she sat, and everybody is going to in their own language, and she is thinking, where am I? Different food, different language. So, she got a feel of what they were going through.
Yeah, and those were the times when there was no television, no Bollywood films.
Yeah.
And this was the only experience of two different cultures that we,
and it's not very easy also, because here are people from an alien culture, in an alien land, alien weather, alien people, they're adjusting all the time. And
and there are many points of view.
All it required was a person who could speak to both people.
Yeah, and you were that.
And it was just wonderful for me as well. I felt so valued. I thought, oh God, what a great thing that I'm here and they can talk. And the difference it made to some of the children. There was a Bangladeshi little girl who would bite. She was she felt so unwanted or different in the environment, that she would bite people, bite other children, bite the teachers, who tried to come close to her. And by the end of this whole exercise, she was totally fine. She was totally adjusted.
Of course, yeah. I've heard other such stories, people, and many of them are from UK actually, because this is whatever. So it's possible.
So that experience, kind of opened up a lot of ideas in my head, because it made me think, how would you do it from the beginning, instead of being provided with the structure and saying, now this is a lesson plan, now you go and teach. So you become conscious of what is it you're delivering, and to whom, and how useful will it be? What's the use of this thing?
And how old were you?
I was in my 20s, 21, 22. Young as hell. But I loved it, because it gave me independence, which I didn't have here. And I was on my own, and I could do things. and it made me feel very good. But of course, when you go from here, you have an idea. Going to England means mini skirt, makeup, all those kind of things. Um, mm, I couldn't do that there within the community. And so we had every weekend we would go to London to visit a friend of ours, and there we would go and wear the clothes we wanted to wear and see plays and enjoy a bit of the British life.
So that was your kind of initiation into uh, this teaching.
Teaching
Yeah.
and finding, allowing my mind to work really in that direction and thinking about things before doing them.
It was a lovely vantage. It gave you a lovely vantage point to the rest of your life.
Of course,
The
absolutely.
planet, how
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do till today. Today, when I'm doing a class, I'm just doing that. There is no, I don't start with a set structure. I've just, first of all, get comfortable with the person and allay all their fears and their things that they are unable to do. And then I just figure out with their help what is it that they want, where do they want to go with this, and we gradually do exactly what they want.
But here the schools are different. I mean, in the sense that what they provide as a system for a teacher to come and work in. So how did you fit in here in India?
Yeah. So when I went to the tea gardens, got married and went to the tea gardens, and there is where I first of all did my BT, the qualification to teach, and in the meantime I got a job in the Air Force Central School, which was the nearest school to our tea estate. And because it was a backward area, no teachers would want to work there.
Yeah.
So they didn't have an English teacher. So the principal called me and said to me, I'm so sorry, but can you teach all our classes?
Okay. How many kids?
And so I said, okay. He says, you will not get a break, but we have that requirement at the moment. We don't have a teacher. And so from 6th class, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th till 12th.
Oh, wow.
So I did the whole timetable every day.
Oh, wow.
And I just did it like this.
And you
because
didn't say,
how could I
say no.
I didn't say no because he didn't have an option. But it worked well in the end, except of course I was like 24 hours on my toes. But I loved it. I wanted to do it. I didn't care too much about, what are they paying me? What am I this? What am I that? I just went and did it. It was just one of those things.
Yeah, that's the way
From
to
one
go.
class to the other, to the other, to the other. But it also gave me that freedom to not have a structure. I just went and say, where are we? What are we doing? This is the lesson. Okay, let's do this.
Very immersive experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I think it was
teachers-
also the age where you are, you just are so intense and full of energy, and I could do it. I mean, and then I used to go back to the tea garden, which had a difference of like an hour from the normal time. So we were 1 hour behind or front, whatever, behind. And I would go home and then I would go to the club and have a good time in the evening, dance, make merry, and then early morning go to the school. And I was doing my BT in the evening.
Oh, wow.
So I was going to a college in the evening for evening classes. And after a while, I was required to do some practice teaching. So and they would not allow me to do practice teaching in the school that I was teaching. Will you believe it? There are assigned certain schools.
The checks and balancing,
Yeah.
the suspicions.
Yeah. So they are assigned certain schools only in the city where you can go. So I used to take leave from my school and go to that school to take a class, and then the inspectors would come. that was pretty horrid, but
Yeah.
had to be done.
So, but after that, you came to a Delhi school.
Yeah, after that we moved to Delhi. Yes, and I was, and just by chance, there was an advertisement by Sardar Patel Vidyalaya, and I knew nothing about the school, and I just applied. And then in the evening, I spoke to my neighbors, and they said, "Oh, Sardar Patel, what a acha school, lovely school, you know."
Yeah, it has a reputation.
It has a reputation and a name. I said, "Oh God, this is great." So I went, and yeah, I was interviewed proper. There were various steps, and that was really a very different school, and I loved it. It was wonderful.
So you did not fall into any kind of a inhibiting environment or something.
No, apart from the stint at the Air Force Central School, which also worked out well, because they required me so desperately, a teacher. No, not really. I didn't go to one or any sort of, yeah. Sardar Patel was so good. It was doing a lot of new things. It was doing an Indian way of teaching, speaking Hindi with the children as they in the lower classes, and encouraging indigenous, examples, and encouraging, because we had to deal with a lot of numbers. We were like 42 in a class in Delhi. And there were different techniques. There were people coming in for workshops, teaching you cooperative learning, how you can teach in a big classroom, groups of people by making groups. And there was already a culture set up in the school about the learning process. And the children were very familiar with it. So it was very participative. Very participative.
Yeah. I also find it a little difficult to imagine a school like that.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I have worked in many schools and
There were structures. They were which were kind of oppressive at times, because certain things had to be done, like curriculum has to be finished and all. But I have to say that it was mitigated highly by everything done in activities, lots of activities. It was basically somebody would come from a conventional school would say, "Yeah, इधर पढ़ाई होती भी है कभी कि नहीं?" Because all the time we were doing some plays, some this competition, some that competition.
That's learning.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
A lot of people don't understand.
Yes, and there was a special homeroom period, a full period set aside, where we planned only this. What are we going to do? So there's this
With the kids.
the kids. Wow. There's no teaching in that period. It's just you're planning the other activities. Some are doing some sketching, some are doing something for a competition. There's storytelling competition going on. There's lots of things happening.
Kids are working.
And kids are working.
I think what usually happens is that kids are so contained and restrained, class homework kind of a thing, that whenever they get a chance to participate in any activity or the annual days around the corner and all, then they kind of take off. And they sort of, so kids. Teachers, it sort of reinforces the understanding of the teachers and the powers that be, that in बच्चों को तो they are too naughty, they have to be, इनको तो डंडा and all that kind of.
अच्छा नहीं, हमारी principal जो थी विभा पार्थासारथी was a very visionary woman, and she said कि I don't want to see a classroom that's quiet.
Oh wow.
No, I don't want pin drop silence.
I remember one school I was working in, and there used to be this ex-army kind of a guy with big mustaches and a scary face. He would be going around the corridors. Actually, he had been set upon the teachers to go around the corridors and see kisi class mein shor to nahi mach raha.
I know.
Pin drop silence.
Yeah.
How can one learn like that?
No.
Yeah.
And I must tell you this thing about their sports day, and everybody had to be taken care of. The whole class had to participate in everything. So there were times that the whole class was on the stage, and she said, "I don't care if it's messy or if it doesn't look that good, but all the children have to take part."
That's wonderful.
You know, all have to sing and all. So we used to have races in sports day. We used to have races where all of them ran. 42 of them ran to the goal post, and all came first. All of them were given certificates for coming first.
How amazing
How
is
lovely
that?
that
It's a
was.
little out of the box, but we've out of the box thinking, I was saying, but we've created the box ourselves. You know, that this is not okay and this is okay. And I remember Rabindranath Tagore's story about the parrot who is in a cage,
Yeah.
and there are all people around discussing about how to, what to, and what should does and who does, and the parrot is in the cage, you know, and that's what is happening to a lot of our kids nowadays. Yeah, and that's terrible. It gets me so
But
triggered.
I think things are changing. The schools are trying new things.
Hmm.
Chandigarh schools are quite sort of opening out a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're trying. But the thing is that there are a lot of schools are outsourcing, you know, like somebody will come and do a play, somebody will. So what Sardar Patel was just so unique that everything was in-house. There was no question somebody will come from outside and do something.
Yeah, so
And even if we had a little, the teachers would organize something, the children would organize, and the culture was such, it had obviously been doing it for a long time before I arrived there, that, you know, the children would automatically, ma'am, aaj quiz karenge. आज हम quiz करेंगे. So, you know, you did the quiz and they organized it. ये पर्ची बनाएगा, वो ये करेगा, वो you were just there learning how it should be done. So yeah, that was really lovely. The home science children made the goodies, somebody decorated, somebody, and lots of good work was done. Every teacher had to have a club. And the club wasn't that you have to have you singing, dancing, this club. No, it is a club of your choice, something which you have and that you can start a club for. So, I mean, I was a bit sort of foxed. So anyway, I know that in Carmel Convent, in my school, I had done a lot of this embroidery. So I started an embroidery club. And like that, everybody did things of their own interest.
Yeah, and the teachers, if you trust them and if you give them the space, they can be very creative. You know, because yeah, everybody can be creative if, you know, just nurtured a little.
Yeah.
And I actually think that the largest community in this country that is creative and that is doing all, you know, exhibitions. Oh, our teachers. You go to a normal school function,
Yeah.
and it's so creatively organized.
Yeah.
And that's all done by the teachers.
Yeah.
And they're the unsung, you know,
Yeah.
kind of heroes of
Yeah.
our country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're treated badly, and they're treated, you know, another very pet theory of mine is that teachers should be nurtured like, you know, kept in cotton wool. Yeah, because, you know,
Yeah, they
they
should be paid better.
They should be paid better. They should
Yeah.
be treated well.
Yeah.
I've been in,
It should be
you
at
know,
power with other professions.
yeah, I mean, they should be respected. I've seen, you know, no, lowly kind of, well, that is nasty of me to say that, but people who are in a government organization just treating the teachers so badly, so badly. They're on a government post, and they feel they can, and they're treating them worse, that like worse than one would treat children.
Yeah. And to think that they are influencing the lives of all these
Yeah, the next
children growing up
generation.
of the next generation.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody cares or
Well,
is able to look so far into the future. that these kids are the ones who are going to be. And sometimes I'm surprised. Like I think this is very worthwhile thing that any teacher, especially you, because you're such a good teacher, and, has that there's students all over in different professions
Yeah.
who have been influenced by you, and that people tend to forget. You know that
Yes,
and
that's true.
sometimes even when if I had known a child or taught him or something who was this high when I left him, and then when they're grown up, you say, "Huh? When
I
did you grow
know,
up so
I
much?"
know.
And
It's
they're
so
so
lovely.
amazing then.
And
And
it's so gratifying to see them grow up into beautiful
yes,
beings.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yes,
It's the most satisfying thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what has really, really impressed me about what you told me, of course, I know you otherwise, but uh, is that you enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, of course. There
You
can't be
loved
any.
it.
I loved
Yeah.
it. I
And
loved it.
didn't care how much money you were getting.
No, no, I
And
wasn't
that's
bothered.
what gives us a joyful, fulfilled life.
I think that that's that's how I started the conversation by saying that going to England just opened up that thing for me. I was just so happy being in England that I didn't care. I was working in voluntary organizations. I was being paid by some of them only bus fare, which was 13 pence, and I would save that and walk all the way because I wanted to have a chocolate or something. And I didn't really care. It was just fun being
Good
there,
fun. And the
and
vibes were good.
vibes were very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what is important also. But you get what you give the world. You get it back. I believe in that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And your vibes were good, so you got good vibes back.
Yes, yes. I got a lot more back from them than
Yeah.
I gave, I think.
And
I
it's
feel very
it's funny.
grateful.
But you landed in the right places.
I know.
You didn't find yourself in this horrible,
Yeah, I never
typical
found myself
school.
in a horrible school.
No.
No, I mean, I suppose that's the reason why I started my own. No, the reason why I started my own classes was because I was looking after my parents and I
Ah,
couldn't go to a proper school. But of course, I did try to join Strawberry. I was in their like initiating team when they were, and then I decided I couldn't because give it that many hours. But yeah, so it's just been okay. It's worked out well for me for my situation. I mean, I have just got very grateful for getting all these students at home now, but also
so what do you teach them at home?
um, we are doing writing skills mainly, and so it started off by preparing them for exam for Doon School. Um, where
For
they
Doon School.
Yeah,
So that one in Dehradun.
Dehradun. So that had certain requirements of writing and within a certain use of language, adjectives, this, that, grammar. So we did all that. But the writing,
So let me get this straight. You prepared the children for admission to schools like Doon and
yeah, others,
others.
Vellums and
Ah,
other Sanawa.
uh-huh,
Also, a lot of students went to Mayo.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was like 100%. If anybody who came to study with, I was doing the English and a friend of mine was doing the Hindi and then general knowledge. But now the pattern has changed. They've got on to these kids taking tuitions and all. So, but I have stayed with teaching creative writing. And there are different types of requirements. Like right now, I'm teaching a girl who's going to Singapore to join a technical course, engineering course, and wants to become a coder. But she feels that in Singapore, if she has a good command over English,
Yeah.
it will help her
Yeah, they
profession.
help her with.
So
communication.
we are just doing that. We are reading and writing. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean,
And nothing that I'm doing is prepared. So today she'll come and tell me what she's read, and then yes, I'll think what is useful for her. We did some things on Singapore itself. We read out some things, and then she wrote some things, and then we pick up some phrases, words from the book that she's reading. And then we construct a little thing. One by one, we use those words and we construct a little passage. And that's really quite interesting. She's really enjoying that.
And it must be going very deep with the student also.
Yeah.
To be able to learn a language in this way.
Yeah.
From one wonderful person like you.
It's not that.
There aren't as many people like you that I would have liked. Because I mean, in the sense now people are not asking that much. But because I'm out of that system also. But when people would ask me that my child is struggling or something, send her to Jayashree. Because that's all that is required. You're packed into a huge class of sometimes 50, 60 kids, even these schools that charge a lot of admission. I don't know whether well-intentioned people actually have much of a choice now, but they did in Sardar Patel. And because there's just maybe too many kids and too few teachers, and the education budget is not enough, and and the whatever it is that creates a system which is totally hopeless in my in my opinion, which is not actually really educating.
I think numbers have got a lot to do with it, but there is a constraint.
There are other things. There are equally creative people looking for a job which is well paid, which they will get respect. You know? So yeah, and it's possible. It's possible. The amount of money we spend on, say, defense, and we spend on showing off in other countries about Indian culture and all that.
Yeah.
A little bit of that money, if it is put on education, it can do wonders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to make people feel valued, and up till now women are teaching because it's a easy profession. You can get a holiday and you have holidays in the summer. That's the attitude.
But if
and it's all right if you don't get too much money, because your children get taught free or something in most
and your
schools.
husband is earning.
So
and many there are many single parent families now who have to deal with the system in which believes that if the man is earning, the woman doesn't need to earn that much. And I mean, the teachers are mostly women who are teaching in the in the schools that are anyway too few for the number of children that are there who need to be educated. They are gaslighted terribly by the administrations of these schools, that you're hopeless, you can't be here. And the way the system is organized, it doesn't trust you. It is always looking in suspicion at you, whether you're bunking classes, whether you're not teaching well enough.
And then somehow that gets converted. That's
gaslighting.
Into the classroom.
Yes, because if a teacher goes with all the stress in a class, and who is the teacher dealing with? The future of this country, the future of the world. And
I don't know how we can get out of this business of getting marks, because it is there in boards and all, because that is what actually makes the whole system, subverts the system. Because every school, no matter how creative it wants to be, eventually has to think board exams, marks. And if they don't get the marks, they don't get anywhere. So I think opportunities have to increase also.
So tell me, Is Sardar Patel Vidyalaya functioning in a similar manner as it did when you were working there? Even now?
Actually, to tell you the truth, I have not been in touch
Acha.
with anybody from there. All I know that that my English, the lady who was in the head of English department, after I left. So I left many years ago. Then she became the principal, and then I don't know
So do
what
you think?
happened.
Do you think
It's actually a minority school. It's a Gujarati minority school.
Acha.
And it's run by a Gujarati board. So I don't know the complexion of it now, but
do you think it was possible to, because once the culture is set in place?
yeah, I think for years it must have run on that steam. So I was there when Mrs. Parthasarthi left, and then somebody else came in, but it ran on that same steam.
Yeah.
But then, of course, it changes with principals, no?
You have to be really committed.
Yeah.
To your
And she
vision.
herself was influenced by her education in Boston. And so, she also had came with ideas, and she was able to enforce those in a system that, with, shies from those things.
Yeah. So I've been and worked for a few weeks, done some kind of theater stuff in some schools in UK. And I sit in these teacher meetings and have this kind of a longing in my heart that even if 10% of the attitudes, the positions, the way the teachers talked about it and handled their classes and the kids, even if a little bit could somehow pour into our schools,
Yeah.
It would be a different thing, because, and that's how children experience education in the UK, in Europe, in US,
It's very much child-centric.
Australia, yeah.
And free.
Yeah, and the teachers are also free. It's a freedom to be able to be kind. It's not available to everyone. Here the teachers cannot choose to be kind because they have to show results or some kind of a thing, and they have to show that they're whatever. I don't know. Yeah. And you had a career, and it's possible. It is possible.
I've hardly had a career, actually. I have taught not that much, but
it continued into other
teaching from home. But yeah, I've been in the caring profession, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I've enjoyed it. It's not been very. I can't boast of like millions of students, but the few that I've taught, I've really enjoyed, and I know they have also enjoyed.
Yeah.
And the way they come back to me and talk to me, and and I feel so proud. And just yesterday there was a girl who sent me a message after many years. She was a student of mine, and she's participating in the French Olympics.
Oh wow!
The first Indian woman. What's her name? Raisa Dhillon, in the shooting category. But yeah, so she sent me a message. It was very sweet. Ma'am, I love this.
Yeah, but so let's talk a little bit about the things that hold teachers back from giving in their natural. I think
it's the compulsions, the job description for a start.
Yeah, so there are these all kinds of things like teacher or student में distance होना चाहिए, and robe wala teacher is supposed to be loved by the community. I even heard once a parent telling the teacher कि little child who was probably 6 or something कि एनु तां इसको तो एक दो लगा दिया करो, ये ऐसे नहीं मानता.
पेरेंट्स भी तो कहते हैं ऐसे.
पेरेंट्स ही कह रहे थे. So there's a way that we look at kids, I guess. There's a way and you were lucky enough to fall in. the
And that,
lap of the
yes.
Queen of England.
No. And also, it's another thing that brings me back to Sardar Patel, where, you know, they wanted, she was very insistent that the parents should be as much involved in the
Yeah.
education of the child
Yeah.
as the teacher. There was no question that the parents will say, "Ke hogi admission and goodbye Tata," or only the mother will appear on parent teacher day. The father had to appear. And if the father did not come, we would send letters, and 1 letter, 2 letter, 3 letter out of the school.
Because the community has to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my ask from the universe today is there are more people like you, more teachers like you, and somehow that this attitude that you have lived and worked with all through your life is not only in your teaching, but it's just as a person. That's what
Yeah.
you exude. And I'm so grateful you came to talk to me today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much. Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for being
Thank
Jayashree. Thank you
you.
so much.